Chapter 6. Causal Revelation. For 2 days my mind raced, wondered, and even tried to imagine what the spirit state could be like. Rehedra's philosophy on love, its reasons, and its achievable blissfulness kept my mood like that of an excited child. I remembered the sensations I had felt when I had first been called to the research building. I recalled the people in the sensory enhancement tanks, the high-tech machinery, and Dr. Jason. Realizing in just a short while we would be back to all this, I felt my heartbeat accelerating. Destiny, I thought. It made sense. Then again, it didn't. I was confused, yet I wasn't. I suppose as one is searching for answers, one is prepared for their revelations. But if one is guided and the answers come first, the questions are what have to be deduced afterward. Answer: you have a special destiny. Question: what does your future hold? Oh well, at least the one thing I didn't feel was insecure or in danger. On the contrary, though the mystery and uniqueness of my present state was evident, I knew I was in good hands, in the right situation, preparing to do what destiny had so intricately arranged. My faith had become my guide and path to the future. As we drove into freedom, a chill went racing through my body, my neck, and left my head blurred with its tingle. No more camping out or just playing around, at least not for a while. It was time to begin the hardcore work. For 2 days, starting after breakfast and continuing into the evening, I was immersed in experimental hypnosis. Sensors were hooked up to my body in hopes of achieving a picture on the viewing screen of what images of past lives were flashing through my mind. The first day had been difficult. Dr. Jason had to break through my constantly churning thoughts, enough so that I could bring my roving mind to a standstill. He finally quieted me by leading me through serene and comforting meditations. This helped me find silence and to still my mind in order to achieve a trance state. Only after a couple of times with Dr. Jason leading the past life regressions did I visualize anything. It was a time of trial and error, which after 2 days had finally begun to produce some positive results. You are now beyond yourself as you are, I heard his voice say. You are all mind, all energy. You feel weightless and are floating. You see yourself farther and farther from your present. Your memory is racing back farther past many lifetimes, fast and reeling like a twirling disc, taking all that you have done in the last 3,000 years and playing it all over to you once again, backwards. Yes. Farther and farther. Can you see it, Paul? Your third life here on Earth? Are you there? The voice echoed inside my mind. At first, I felt it had come from the picture in front of my eyes, but then it came again, and I realized that this voice was from the outside. It was Dr. Jason's. But the images and the sounds coming from my visions were from inside. I did it, I thought, I'm in the causal dimension. Realizing I could hear Dr. Jason at the same time I was hearing and viewing what was an episode in one of my past lives, I took the chance on trying to answer. Yes, I can hear you. I am here. Good, came the voice. Good. Just remain relaxed, and remember, I can move you forward or backward in time. If I turn your memory fast, don't panic. And if something startles you or happens suddenly, remember, it can't hurt you. Yes, Dr. Jason, I know. Just keep explaining everything to me, and unless I ask you to slow down or to wait, then go ahead. Am I speaking through my normal voice? I asked, thinking it was strange and echoed to my own ears. Yes, Paul. What you see and hear is being recorded and transmitted onto the screen. We are receiving vivid images and clear sounds. His voice sounded distant and low, but still somehow loud. It was clear, much clearer than normal. I knew it was coming from the Earth dimension and not from this other dimensional space. It was like feeling a vibration altogether strange from any sounds I had heard before. I listened from this different space of such clarity and purity. Okay, I see a vast desert, sands-filled landscape. Yes, Paul, we see it also. Do you see the people on the horizon? He asked. I answered instinctively, realizing instantly that all I had evaluated about his voice was done in fractions of a second. The level of awareness in the causal space was so much more complete. My abilities to respond and understand were so many more times greater than normal. My mind and intelligence seemed to have grown instantly. I do see the horizon. Yes, but I feel strange about those people that I can also see, especially the young man who seems to be looking right back at me. That is you, Paul. You are experiencing self-recognition by and of your own self. Your name in this life was Tesnus, I broke in. Yes, Tesnus the Traveler, echoed my own voice back to me. I was carrying on a conversation in the physical world while looking at a vision of a past life image, which was before me in the etheric world. It was inside of my eyes. It felt as if I was looking at my own eyes through some magical mirrors. I was picturing myself as I had been back then, while still being aware of who I was now. It was a whole world within my own mind. And now those in the room could also see and hear it all as well, and knowing I would be able to also view it later from the recordings was amazing. There I was, traveling in the present as Paul, to find and see myself traveling in the past as Tesnus. It was just incredible. Remember, Paul, all that you see, we see. So refer to anything without need to explain. We already know, and we see exactly what you see. We are very tired, I spoke back as I suddenly began to explain the image I was seeing. We've been moving this caravan for many weeks. This part of the desert is vast and fierce. We are headed for the city of Pharaoh. These people with me are mostly religious exiles trying to return to their mother Egypt. Good, Paul. We are going to go forward about 30 years. The location is also in Egypt, in your 55th year in that life. Blurred visions flashed before me like a sped-up movie, but they were all somehow still very clear within my memory as they passed by me and through me one after the other. I somehow could now recognize it all instantly, just as I could all the memories I had in my mind as Paul. The remembrances of the life I was visiting all rushed through me. Within moments, I had opened my very own Akashic record of my life as Tesnus. "I am here," I called out as I came to a sudden stop. A few moments of visual unbalance passed before my eyes, then it all became clear again. How great it seemed that in less than a few seconds I had somehow traveled forward through dozens of years in a life long since past. The person that now appeared before me was the aged person I had just seen as a young man seconds before. I continued to go into the future of that life, and when I had reached a time that I felt and sensed was somehow relevant, I spoke to Dr. Jason. "I see the Great Pyramids before me," I said, explaining my sights. "We see them too, Paul. Slowly take yourself forward." Magnificent! The Great Pyramid of Giza stood before me. I was there with several other Egyptian scientists and doctors. "The pharaoh is inside the pyramid," I heard myself say. The sun was setting over the horizon in a magnificent red glow just above the peak of the structure. I saw a figure come out of the center of the pyramid with a group of people behind. A signal came, and we who were outside waiting went up hurriedly toward them. We entered a large chamber. The pharaoh and a group of persons high in the hierarchy were inside. I suddenly realized I was present because of my knowledge of foreign lands and foreign tongues. I was a learned traveler. The others with me were scribes, architects, and doctors. A formal order was taken as we all stood facing the pharaoh. Then a prayer was begun. A priest spoke of the Great Pyramid, of its building and its purpose. He spoke of the pharaoh who was interred below and of the people of Egypt. He spoke of where their power had come from, how it had been obtained and used by the people of Egypt. He spoke of the new pharaoh and what would be the future of Egypt with a new ruler. The power of this structure was so unlimited, so immense, but where had it come from? I raced backwards in time a little. It seemed so easy now. All I had to do was think it, and I went backward or forward in time. My control of the causal dimension was growing fast, and it felt so real. Yet I could still sense the physical world and the presence of those with me in the room. I could even feel Rehedra touching my hand. I was in a place between two worlds. I went back 2, 3, 4 days, quickly, but at a speed comprehensible to my vision. Then there I was, at a congregation of thousands around the Great Pyramid for the burial of the pharaoh. I went back further a few days and found myself teaching in a school at the royal palace, telling stories of distant places, people, tongues, and of Egypt's power in the world. I was a learned scholar, revealing information to many of those who worked for the royalty about mystical religions from other worlds. I went back still another day, and I found myself at a meeting with the pharaoh himself. He would need a person to speak for him. He would need a person to be a witness who could then pass along the teachings about a great occurrence that was to come very soon to them. I then moved myself a week further back in time to when the old pharaoh was still alive. I was in his presence by the Nile River before he passed. The pharaoh spoke of the revelation of a secret Egyptian power and the disclosure of it to the world. Those who gave and taught this power were present in Egypt. I then traveled forward to when the pharaoh and some priests, scribes, doctors, and I were together at the pyramid. The pharaoh looked old and tired. It was all so clear to me. The old pharaoh died that night. He told us he was in search of returning himself to spirit, and that it was time for him to depart this life. He said that in the morning a new pharaoh would rule. The new pharaoh would need us to help him use the great power held by Egypt. Then, yes, then it was there, the power. Those of the power are present. The power of Egypt before my eyes. It all made sense. Yes, I know. I see the occurrence. Good, Paul, good. Dr. Jason's distant voice echoed. Good, yes, good. You've seen, you know. The excitement of what I had just seen, remembered, and re-experienced startled me right out of that time and place. Suddenly there was no vision or sound. White blurred my eyes. They fluttered, watered. Then the white turned slowly into the ceiling above me, and all my surroundings became clear again. I blinked, moved my eyes, and there was Dr. Jason and Rahedra. I saw it, I said in awe. They quickly disconnected the wires. I felt a headache that disappeared as quickly as it had come. Then I was completely back again. Rest a minute, I heard Rahedra say. You just jumped yourself out of the projection in the excitement. So take it easy for a moment. I closed my eyes and stilled myself until I slowed my racing pulse and my fast-beating heart. A few moments passed in which my etheric and physical memories came together, becoming one, while closing the space that had for so long been there between them. A separation that from this day could never be there again. I had seen past the boundaries of the human body, and I had seen the first occurrence. Now life would never and could never be the same again. I really saw it, I said, rising quickly. Yes, Paul, Rahedra said. I was reeling with the depth of the revelation as I sat up and looked at her. Paul, try not to even think about it until the second regression, she smiled. I'm confused, I said. I get deep feelings about myself as Tessnus. I sort of feel like two people or something. That will pass, said Dr. Jason. The first time the causal memory is tapped always seems strange. As you go along, it will be easier to differentiate a causal memory from a physical one. The impact of the occurrence with your very first, complete regression is enough to test anyone. Believe me, you must ponder this for a while so that you can have a better understanding of it all in order to benefit from your next projection. This was the first time I had ever seen Dr. Jason so pleased and excited. I smiled. His beaming, happy face was contagious. "No need to discuss it, believe me," he continued. "We too understand the greatness of it all." He gestured up to the sky. "But silence for now, for soon will come the next vision of the second occurrence." We walked slowly, pensively to the elevator. I could almost feel the power of what had happened right there in the room. My whole life has changed, I thought. I really truly have seen for myself. A vision of what I had seen flashed again before my eyes. A chill cooled my body, filled my head, and then silenced me. I spent the next day preparing for the next regression. The sensors were being connected to my chakras. Several technicians and doctors were busy preparing the audiovisual equipment. I closed my eyes for a moment, relaxing, clearing my thoughts, and I soon fell into that relaxing, suspended state of hypnosis. It had come so easily this time that I felt like an expert after just one complete and successful regression. But what a regression it had been! I had seen and been with the pharaohs of the greatest era of Egypt and taught them esoteric truths at their request. I felt confident now. I knew that no harm would come to me, since all that I was seeing was from hundreds and thousands of years past. From my feelings and my memory, I knew that I had really been Tesnus the Traveler, but being Paul at this time and place. I felt as if that person was now from the distant past too. I knew myself, but no longer was I the same as the person I had been just days or even hours before, when all this was just a possibility. I experienced all my feelings coming from a different part of me that I had never known existed until it had been reawakened. I knew why I was here, but I also now realized that I was someone totally different, separate from Tesnus or Paul or any others I might have been. I knew myself, not totally or perfectly, but I now knew my authentic, true inner self. I felt a compelling need to keep searching, reaching, until I did discover my total self. Then I felt the sudden release of all pressures, holds, thoughts in life, and found myself once again conscious and aware in that incredible state of the causal dimension. A vision flashed before my eyes. Dr. Jason had taken me back about 237 years into the past. I saw a large white colonial mansion. I knew that everything I could see and hear would be relayed to all those in the room, so I no longer felt a need to speak to them or to attempt to explain anything. I now knew and felt confident that I could take control of the projection myself. I also knew that they would witness everything I did, so I merely went forward and backward on my own volition. I knew what to do and how to travel in this alternative space. I knew, but I couldn't say how I knew. But I knew. Behind the mansion, some murmurs and cheers from a crowd of people could be heard. My causal mind moved forward, and there I was, practicing in a friendly contest of swords. I instantly recognized myself as one of the participants, and felt every sensation, movement, and feeling. I felt the thrills as I watched myself doing, in my memory, what I had actually done in the late 1780s. The feelings were so very real, yet I could easily separate them as being from my past. My real present self was very awake and aware somewhere within me. I was easily able to separate both states, just as Dr. Jason had said I would be able to. I decided to leave that time and began to move again. I felt as if I was traveling at extraordinary speeds, as the images of life and the passing of time flew before my eyes. A picturesque landscape of rolling hills, filled with flowers, came into view. It was a place by the ocean, near the colonies. There was a congregation of high government officials, all gathered near a cliff-side. The president was also there. Foreign diplomats from many countries were present, too. The many carriages and horses that were off to one side were being watched and protected by some soldiers. Soldiers. Yes, there I am. I am a general for the President of the United States. That's why I'm there. They're all talking about the previous week and all that took place to bring them here. Extreme safety measures were taken to close off this whole mountainside to everyone but the government officials. Wait, not everyone. The power. Yes, the same power that I had seen in Egypt is here. It is among us. But why is it? Of course, it is here meeting the many governments of the world. They are all here to speak together to the power. This is the day of the second occurrence. Yes, the occurrence, it is happening again. The fields blurred as I raced myself forward in time. 1 week, 2 weeks. The occurrence was already past. It had already happened. I still chased forward through time, months, then years. I saw my whole life in that time as general pass by in a flicker of seconds. A strange sensation overcame me. I felt myself suddenly feeling so very free, even from the restraints of my memories, both causal and of the mind. A feeling unlike anything I had ever experienced before lifted me, moved me. Then a sudden, violent motion tore through my body as I came out of the projection, sitting, almost jumping up. "I saw the second occurrence," I exclaimed. Rahedra held me, kissed me, and we all shared a quiet moment in respect for the wonders we had all, again, just experienced. Our understanding of what we saw unfold before our very own eyes had gripped us all. We were deeply held in a bond that was becoming stronger and stronger with every passing moment. The success of the regressions and my quickness in understanding all that had happened had left everyone involved with this project confident and happy. They now knew their work was fruitful and purposeful. In a way, I realized, probably better than most, what the future would bring and become. I knew so much now without really knowing how I knew it. It was as if my mind's door had been reopened, revealing intricacies and theories of life to be. My thoughts were a giant gathering of pictures, words, impressions, and memories of past and present, and even the future. I looked through my mind for the occurrence to come. Within my deepest self, my own being was awakening, rising, and coming forth at a speed that was growing rapidly. A silence of mind, heart, and voice overcame me as I traveled through the endless realms within my very own being. A raging fire of knowing, seeing, and realizing filled me with an awareness of myself and of all that was to come.